2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
I've said this to you guys before, roster building is a 12-month process. And you can't sit here and rest on your laurels, oh, you went to the Super Bowl, so obviously you're going to go back again.
Your decisions are made above your shoulders rather than in your heart.
Exactly.
And so
listen, at the end of the day, we're going to do the evaluation. We're going to see what we feel we need, and we're going to do everything we can to get better.
All right, welcome to the C3 Panthers podcast. It's episode 18.47, Ground Zero, and it's a Heinicke of a disaster. We're going to be talking about the Carolina Panthers as they limp into the finish line. They crawl towards the finish line. We're going to survey that wreckage of the 2018 season and try to figure out what the Carolina Panthers can get motivated for against the New Orleans Saints in their final game of the year. And we're going to get motivated tonight, and I'm going to get Panther Nation pumped up. Somehow, we're going to find a way to get through this together, and it starts by hanging out with my friend, Cody Lashney. How are you, Cody?
Tony Dunn, I'm wonderful, man. This will be the final show that we do during the 2018 Panthers season. It didn't turn out as we wanted it, man, but we're here for each other. We're here with the lifelong diehards in the YouTube chat. I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody who's on Facebook, on YouTube, the YouTube chat. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support. If you could, go ahead and turn your phone to portrait mode, smash that thumbs up button, and make sure you subscribe on your podcast apps as well to the longest running Panthers podcast out there. All right. And if you want to support us in any other way, we sell some merchandise like the Cam Wow. There's some you can donate to the show and do that. But really, your support can be found in this Christmas season in the chat room by chopping it up with us. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas to start, and hopefully we have a happier New Year than this one. But Cody, here we are. We've lost 7 straight. The Panthers have struggled mightily in this dispute or this decline. And I'm going to open and ask this question to you. We talked about it briefly before the show. Is there a more disappointing season in recent memory in your mind than the 2018 Carolina Panthers?
You know, it's tough, man. I mean, yeah, you know what? I'm going to say, yeah. For me, it was between this season and 2016. Coming off that Super Bowl, I felt that we had a nice foundation going forward to maybe be able to repeat and make a run. But, I mean, you and I said numerous times at the start of the season, we felt that we had upgraded the team with Don Tari Poe. We had put pieces in place, that we had a dominant front seven. We put some pieces around Cam Newton. And for a while, that seemed to be the case. I mean, we were rolling. We were doing some good things. And then the damn wheels fell off this sucker, man. And, yeah, I mean, I think it would be different if we started out slow. But the fact that we started out so strong, dominant even in a few performances, yeah, this has probably been the most disappointing season that I can say I've been a part of as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, you could go back. I mean, I could go back to like somewhere we were just awful, and those were just awful seasons. You know, I mean, 2010 with Jimmy Clausen and that nonsense. I mean, you can go back to some. I mean, you go back into like early 2001 when they were like 1-15, but those were bad teams. And to me, I'm going to say this takes the cake. And I was with you. I was splitting hairs between 2016 and 2018. And the reason being is that you had such you were so close. You seemed so hot in 2015 that you were hoping that fire would just continue. But I think there were some reasonable reasons why it didn't. I mean, and the fact that, Cam Newton, several concussions that season, you lose Michael Orr to concussions as well. There was just a lot of problems on that team. And that just were apparent from the very beginning. Graham Gano as well. And this season has been disappointing because I don't feel like there is a lot of reason to be. How do you be really that hopeful at this point? That we can't even win a game. At this point, we're just hoping the season ends. And now we don't know. I think before you could have said, hey, Ron Rivera can steady the ship. He's good in December. He gets these teams. He doesn't lose the locker room. We don't even have that to hold on to at this moment. We don't know what Cam Newton's health is going to be. And then the wild card factor is we don't even know what the front office is going to look like going into next season. So I think it's complicated. I think our losing is complicated by the degree of uncertainty ahead of us.
Yeah, and David Tepper is a wild card. I mean, he bought the team rather when the pieces were in place. We had Ron Rivera, we had Mario Hernan, and he even came out and said that he liked them at that position, in the positions that they're in. Now, after a terrible season like this, we have no idea what he's going to do. He's a total wild card. We have no idea if he's going to clean house. Ian Rappaport had come out and said that it looks like we're going to be keeping Ron Rivera, but then Joe Person comes out on his Twitter and says that that's not what he's hearing amongst NFL circles. So really nobody has any idea what the future of the Panthers looks like in the front office. A lot of personnel decisions to be made. Devin Funchess, Greg Olson, Thomas Davis, Don Poe. There's a lot of uncertainty around the Carolina Panthers right now.
Well, I think you should expect Don Poe to come back next year because he signed a 3-year deal, I believe, with the Carolina Panthers, and usually they're kind of locked in for 2 of those 3 years. It might not be financially wise for us to part ways with him, but then you're losing a center as well, and Matt Khalil retiring, the unknown that comes with Greg Olson at the same time. There is, like you said, and then someone in the Facebook chat, it was Sean Gilly says, look, Munnerlin's go bye-bye to Munnerlin, bye-bye to Chris Clark. So there's a lot of bye-byes, and it's going to be a lot of get to know a new team going forward. Now, I guess there is one bright spot, though, is that Jarris Wright, with when he crested 40 catches, got a $200,000 bonus. And that was in this past game in week 15. That's Merry a good Christmas bonus. Yeah. I hope that he is going to that he will be buying something for his wife. Nice. I'm sure of that he will. Also, I think you sent that message to me, Cody.
Yeah, I did. My bad. Continue.
Okay. So now I would say this is let's turn to the current situation instead of looking forward. Right now, there is some more concerning news or interesting news, Taylor Heinicke waited all those years to start his first game, and now he started his first game, and that was it. He's been put on IR with an injured elbow, and the Panthers now signed quarterback Garrett Gilbert, who we're familiar with, to be the backup, but it looks like Kyle Allen will be starting this week. We saw briefly him in a stint in the second quarter when what's his name? Tyler Heinicke, already forgot it, was hurt. Now that's sad. I don't mean that. But we don't even have – it's going to be very difficult to watch this game. It's kind of a bizarre game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, weirdly, it'll be some sort of an exhibition preseason hybrid. Drew Brees probably will not play. According to Jordan Rodriguez of the Charlotte Observer, they are now talking like we might do the same thing and test out some of the depth that we have on our roster. So, some of the defensive ends that don't get a lot of playing time, Marquise Haynes comes to mind, some of the linebackers that we drafted. It'll be a weird one, man. And, now, we're in the midst of draft season pretty much, which, by the way, there's a brand new draft tomorrow on drafttech.com. Be sure and check it out early in the morning. You don't want us to win. And I was even typing this in the chat. So right now, unless I'm wrong and unless Draft Tech is wrong, the Panthers have the 11th pick in the draft. And because the Falcons had a slightly tougher strength of schedule this year, even though they beat us twice, they still have the 10th pick in the draft, and we have the 11th.
Doesn't make no sense.
It
That's
makes
terrible.
no damn sense in the world. It makes not a shred of sense, but it is the way it is, man. And so, yeah, I mean, it's in a bad situation where you want the Panthers to lose, man, to a division rival. It doesn't feel good. On the other hand, Kyle Allen will start. Now, for those of you who don't know him, in 2013, either 14 or 13, pardon me, he was the number one rated quarterback coming out of high school. He ended up going to Texas A&M. He transferred around a little bit. And, he ended up being an undrafted free agent. But the man has talent. And it'll be interesting to see how he performs and what his future with the Panthers will ultimately be.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch. Look, we've got a guest in Cody from Roanoke, Virginia. He's going to join us. Cody, go ahead and bring in your doppelganger from Virginia. Cody, meet Cody. And this has been a difficult year specifically for me because we are what looks like we're going to be 1-5 against division rivals. All right, we got Cody from Roanoke, Virginia. Cody, speak to him.
Cody, can you hear us, man?
He's got to turn his sound up on his phone. Maybe.
Testing 1, 2. Hey, Cody, can you hear us?
We can hear you, sir.
I can't hear anything on my end.
No,
all right, I'll drop him and I'll
message
him.
Okay. All right, so 1-5 against division rivals is not a good deal, right? That has got to be the saddest statistic that I can think of that we could have. Is that at least you want to beat those types of play, really get after those guys, and we have egg on our face losing 7 in a row, and now the egg on our face comes to as well that we can't beat the guys that we hate the most. And that's a difficult prospect for us. And the fact that Tampa Bay has beat us one time this season, there's nothing to hang your hat on in the division. Really tough sledding right now. All right, so we'll continue forward. This is C3 Panthers podcast. Hopefully we could get Cody to work. If not, we're going to have to link up and try it, give it a test. Some other point is that now where we're at here is now, let's see, other news. Devin Funchess reportedly asked about his contract negotiations and status with the team going forward. And Devin Funchess says he would like to be back. Now, I think he has to say that because you like getting paid. But I don't think he's going to be welcome back at this point. It just certainly seems like you've lost a lot of confidence in him towards the end of this season. And I understand fans getting on you quick, but it looks like the coaching staff has started to turn their back on you. And that's not a ringing endorsement at this point, Cody.
No, I mean, that's not an endorsement at all. And if you think about it, if you look at guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, who's a third-round pick, Antonio Brown, he was, I believe, a fourth-round pick. DeAndre Hopkins didn't go in the first round, and he's probably the best receiver in the NFL right now. And then you look at Devin Funchess, and David Gettleman traded and moved up to grab him. And we just haven't seen out of him what I feel fans have wanted to see. And I don't think that's an unfair statement. It's not so much, and I'm going to be honest, when it comes to the man's hands, I don't feel that they've always been a problem. In fact, I would say even before this season, I would say that it was one of his better attributes. But he's never been a great route runner. Brett Coleman even said that when we interviewed him, that he didn't even know what routes he was running sometime. And now it appears that he's not even on the same page as Cam Newton most of the time. He's been seeing fewer and fewer reps. And it's just, it doesn't seem as though he is a large part of what the Panther offense will be in the future. So definitely, if he wants a ton of money, I do not think Carolina would be the place that throws the bag on him.
No, I mean, and I just don't think it might be at this point just time for a fresh scenery, and that is a new fan base to have to ingratiate yourself with, because at this point you haven't ingratiated yourself with the fans, you haven't ingratiated yourself with the coaching staff and the front office. You're a Gettleman guy in any way. You're not a Marty Herney guy, so that doesn't put you in favorable light as it is. And it looks like there's going to be some casualties right now at this point, that people are getting thrown under the bus to save other people. And that's, look, I mean, we saw a little bit of it with Ron Rivera and the coaching staff earlier. So that's kind of, to me, is I think it might be, I feel like Brandon LaFell left with a better taste in his mouth, like more liked by the fans than Devin Funchess at this point.
Yeah, I feel he had more upside from a physicality standpoint. I felt he was fast and he was a decent enough route runner. Yeah, man. I mean, and if you think about it, and David Gettleman's tenure here, who, again, I'm not as hard on as most fans, but the two wide receivers that he drafted to put around Cam Newton in his time here ended up being Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess. And it doesn't say a lot about his ability to draft exterior help. So, and I mean, look, we might be looking to add another receiver come draft time. So it all depends. I'm interested to see how much he ends up asking for, because there are some players that are better about that than others. They know that they might not be the Odell Beckhams of the world, and they're more reasonable in what they might ask for. But I don't know. We just don't know that about Devin, and he has said that he wants to be back. So it all depends.
I believe he's like an $8 million player at best. And that's not what he wants to hear. That's putting him in the category of a Torrey Smith. But I right now he hasn't had over 700 or 800 yards receiving in a single season, and he's been given a ton of opportunity. So I don't know at what point you can really command that much money. And I just don't think he could command any from us. I think it's going to be a 1-year deal with another team. And that's all he's going to get. I think that he's been upset that he blew a big opportunity. I mean, if you think about it, is every game that he played poorly in took $1 million or more off of potential contract signing. So that's got to be difficult going ahead. Cody, we can try one more time with Cody.
Yep.
And if you want to bring him in, and we'll see if he can hear us. And if not, we'll just kind of give him the mic and let him go for a second.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing,
All right.
man? Can you hear us?
I can hear you beautifully.
Can you hear Tony?
I can hear both of you.
Awesome.
Holy cow. The world is good. All right, Cody from Virginia. Welcome to the C3 Panthers podcast. You called into the show several times. What's on your mind tonight?
Man, just wanted to join the show, man. I mean, to be honest with you, just find it pretty cool to be on the show beyond just a voice. Maybe put a face to the name and to what I've been saying. Ultimately, agree with a lot of the things you say. The more I think about the Ron Rivera thing, though, I think we can all agree. I think a fresh start would be happy. We'd be happy to see a fresh start. But at this point, I really don't. I'm not upset by it because I do feel like we would miss him, especially if next year we come in with somebody who's just subpar. So I'm not upset by him not leaving, but at the same time, it doesn't make me excited for next year.
Yeah, it's a limbo status of. What do you do? I mean, what do you truly do at this point? And it all has to be is that we won't be able to know any of it until it unfolds. And that is until that guy is installed, if there is a replacement. And you see how the season starts off or goes, because being a head coach is a giant learning curve for a lot of people. And you saw the learning curve for Eric Washington. He's moved to defensive coordinator, and it was tremendous for him. Ron Rivera didn't have everything together in the early years, but the question now, and I'm going to turn it to Cody from South Carolina. I think the saddening part about the Rivera thing is that he is not getting better as a coach.
Yeah, he's not. I go on the Panthers subreddit sometime, and they posted a video before the last Saints game, and it was from 2013. And it was the game that we played against the Saints that solidified us going into the playoffs. And Deion Sanders is talking with, I think, maybe Warwick Dunn is on the panel with them. And they're showing Ron Rivera not using the timeout when you're supposed to be using it at the end of the football game. And the Saints ended up getting the ball back. It's just, he hasn't gotten better. I've said this on the show before. Ron Rivera is not a bad head coach. And I don't really think that any of us would say that he is, but he has brought us, in my opinion, at least, as far as he is capable of. I don't know if he will be the guy that brings this team to the promised land and helps us win a Super Bowl championship. I feel if that were true, we would have been a more consistent football team than we are right now, and not having a winning season and a losing season and back and forth and back and forth. In my opinion, that's on the coaches and less so the players. And I'm not. And I want to throw this to our guest, Cody. Strong name, by the way, real powerful, manly name. I like that one. Yeah, I want to ask you this, and Tony and I have been talking about this. How excited are you if here comes 2019 and Ron Rivera is the head coach, Marty Heinicke is the general manager, it's the same regime, same old thing? How confident are you in the Panthers and their chances moving forward with those two at the helm?
So next year, I'm pretty confident, right? Because it's the even year curse, right? So right. I'm happy, there, right? But I mean, I get what you're saying to some degree. The part that I would say we've seen what he's capable of And I'm not going to put that all on him. The 2015 season, the 2013 season even. 2017 was a decent season. I wouldn't say that was a great season, but it was a decent season. Right. We've seen the highs, right? Yeah, we didn't get all the way to where we wanted to be, but we came pretty dang on close. So I think the ability to get there is still there with Ron Rivera. So there's still hope, even if he does come back next year. I will say, to the point, I wanted to touch on this with the time management. That's something that I've noticed since his tenure. I've never seen, and it may go back to Cam Newton too, I've never seen a team so lax in the final 2 minutes to where they will not run back to the line, get set, and have the play already knowing that they're going to be throwing. It frustrates me to no end. And that's the one thing I'll say about Cam Newton is that, that New Orleans game when we were coming down on the second half, coming there to the end and he wanted to celebrate. I get it. But, and that falls on Ron Rivera too. There should have been a timeout right there. I think if there's ever a time for a timeout, it was right there. Instead, we let 20 seconds bleed off the clock before we actually hit the timeout. But back to your original question.
It was a collective issue there, though. I mean, is that while Ron should be calling timeout, Cam should also be focused enough to know that if somebody's going to make a mistake, that he's got to be drilling it. And I also was starting to think the same thing at that moment when I was thinking about Cam, and I was like, gosh, come on, Cam, like, we got to go. But then in the game last week, I saw that the team did the same thing for Heinicke. Yeah. And he's sitting there trying to get him to speed up, and everybody's like, well, we'll get up here. So real lack of urgency.
I've never seen a lack of discipline like that. I mean, it's just and it does go back to the coaching there. If there's one reason, and I know there's a lot of reasons to fire a head coach, but in the entire tenure, you haven't set in mind that if we're behind or even have a chance to go up at the half, we need to have some hustle. And you see it even go back to high school. You see hustle. You see hustle in every good team out there. I've never seen Aaron Rodgers, when it's 2 minutes to go, even if they are, sporting the lead, to where he's not getting ready to go into the half trying to go with the touchdown to, kind of cushion that lead a little bit. And that's just, for whatever reason, our coaching staff has not instilled that urgency, as we've said, in the players or in the game plan. And it may go back to the reason of Cam Newton. I'm a Cam Newton supporter all day, every day, but I know they have to simplify things, with the play calling. He agreed. I mean, he's even admitted seeing some of these other quarterbacks being able to, to make the calls that they make by, the ways they have to do it. It's just, there's a huge difference. And maybe the simplification of how Cam gets his plays is not actually helping with the urgency. I don't know. I mean, it's just, I'm not a part of the meetings. I'm not a part of the huddle. I'm not a part of the play calling. So I can't really say 100%, but I mean, there's got to be a reason that it hasn't been fixed to this point.
He said the verbiage, and if you do hear all that they have to call it the huddle, it is crazy.
It's crazy.
It's like almost a damn paragraph. But I think that is more kind of what Cam's talking about, and I do agree that it's not. To me, it's not necessarily a problem with Cam not being able to do it. I just think that on Cam Newton's part and on the coach's part, which, I mean, it goes between both of them, that there doesn't seem to be enough urgency when it matters the most, almost as if neither the sidelines or the guys on the field, minus Greg Olsen, who seems to be always with everything, that there doesn't seem to be an awareness of what the time on the clock is, what needs to happen right now, if they need to run to hurry up or not. And it seems as though in practice, you should have, half of your practice dedicated to doing just that. Put the ball down, get information, spike the ball, run the play, hurry up. Yeah, and that hasn't been here in the Carolina Panthers on our football team for a while now, maybe since Ron has been here. And you're right. I do agree that that's been a problem for a while.
All right, let's turn the conversation briefly over this, is that, and kind of piggybacking off the lack of urgency. One of the things that kind of stuck out to me is that now Ron Rivera, there's a story from the Charlotte Observer that says now Taylor Heinicke's health Ron Rivera's future, more players being evaluated by the Panthers. That's the title of the story. And now Ron has just got it in his brain that it's time to start evaluating players. I don't know why that week wasn't last week or even the week before, honestly. We did not see Marquise Haynes in there. He was a healthy scratch last week. Who is he actually talking about now? Because he doesn't care what Cameron Artis-Payne can do. Who does he want to evaluate? And I thought it was going to be last week in Rashawn Golden. I thought it was going to be Marquise Haynes. Jermaine Carter did get in there. But Cody from South Carolina, is this just another example of slow? It's like $1, what is it, $1 short and $1 a day short or whatever that saying is.
A day late, $1 short. Yeah, that's if a movie is ever made by about Ron Rivera, that'll be the title of the movie. A day late, $1 short. Yeah, I mean, and this isn't new. I mean, Tony, you've been saying this for as long as I've been watching the show. Why doesn't Cameron Artis-Payne, get more reps? I mean, there were times in Jonathan Stewart's final season where he had fumbled the ball 3 times in a row, and we'll just trot Jonathan back out there. I mean, letting our younger players go out there and play, the younger, more talented, more dynamic players. We've talked about this ad nauseum. It takes an injury or some form of weird situation that we're in right now for Ron Rivera to say, yeah, we're going to play the younger players. And to me, that's such a problem, especially before the season starts, when you're formulating the roster for the team that you're going to have compete on the field every Sunday, and you have a head coach that is so insistent upon playing the veterans when there might be a better player on the roster. It's one of the attributes about Ron Rivera that genuinely frustrates me the most, and that's part of the reason why I and a bunch of fans want to move on from him, because if that hasn't gotten better now, when is that going to start to change? Because, I don't know, it just seems that would have been something you would have adjusted with and done by now.
The YouTube chat is saying that the movie that is a strong running for missed opportunities, the Ron Rivera story.
Yeah.
If we hear that again, we're all gonna seppuku at the end of that movie. Cody up north. Who do you want to see? What do you want to see in this final game via an evaluation tool?
I'm still waiting to see a good look at Cameron Artis-Payne. From the glimmers we've seen of him, he's been able to be explosive. I mean, even if you go back to that Dolphins game last year, I mean, you look at that game, he had to come in because we had a blowout on our hands with him, and he came in and basically just ran all over him too. I mean, I know it wasn't a crazy, they weren't really playing for anything, but I mean, I think finding out what we have in him and see if we can get a Ingram Kamara style of, 1-2 punch with those guys. Once again, it's a copycat league, and we could sit here all day and say they need to find out what people can do. The truth of the matter is they see what they do in practice, and if they're not playing, there's a reason, I'd like to think. Granted, there's been people come in and surprise even the coaches as to what they can do. I mean, look at F.A. Obata. He did in his, against the Bengals. I don't think anybody saw him coming in and winning NFC Defensive Player of the Week. And then he's still inactive most weeks, even after that.
Right.
But I think Corn Elder, Rashawn Golden, we need to see what we really have with our secondary before we really get into the draft and the free agency to find out what our needs really are. Because if those guys can actually do something or learn or get some experience, maybe we can save our focus, as I've talked about on my previous call from Sunday night. Maybe our focus can just simply be the lines. And even if that means, and I know it sounds stupid, but trading our top, if we get a top 10 pick, trading that away for deeper, and a more abundant amount of the O-line and defensive line, because as we talked about, sometimes those top 10 picks can be busts. We have one on our hands right now with Khalil, as we talked about on Sunday. So,
yeah, it's a lot of holes to fill. Yeah. Vernon Butler, a lot of holes to fill there. And speaking of, I know that I've been, on that Cameron Artis-Payne train forever, but Did you guys see what C.J. Anderson did? And he goes and puts up 100 and now I know it's the Cardinals, but he had 167 yards rushing and like 2 touchdowns or something. And that mug couldn't find a spot on any team supposedly, but I guess it shows. And a lot of those were after contact. I read. I need to go watch the tape and see what happened. Yeah,
that poses a question though, right? I think Todd Gurley is good, but is he that good, or is it the team that he's on?
You're onto something right there, man. And no, listen. Let me say this. Todd Gurley. Listen, Todd Gurley he's a very good running back. But if you look at the difference this season between Saquon Barkley and Todd Gurley, it's night and day difference. That is an incredible offensive line they have in Los Angeles. And Saquon Barkley and even our very own Christian McCaffrey, they have the ability to make plays where there isn't a play to be had, where there isn't a hole to be had. And, I'm not saying anything bad about Todd. The man is incredible. But, C.J. Anderson broke the record, I think, for the past. I don't remember what it was, but he broke some sort of record with most yards after contact. I mean, this is C.J. Anderson, people. He was on a roster a few weeks ago. And then Ron Rivera has the gall a week or so ago to talk about next year we might look to lighten the load for Christian McCaffrey next year.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, did you not bring a guy in specifically for that purpose and then let him go after the trade deadline? I mean, come on, man. Talk about a missed opportunity, dude. It's so frustrating.
Nothing's wrong with the head coach, but doesn't that not go to North Turner too? I mean, I think we've all been a fan of what North has done. And everybody wants to get rid of North too, but I think when you look at it, the problem that you run into is because of Cam's shoulder has been messed up all season. It's been messed up since last season. He hasn't been able to throw a deep ball since 2015, or really 2016 when we had Ted Ginn. And so it's been a minute. And so we really haven't seen the full effect of a North Turner offense. I was hoping to be able to see it last week, but our offensive line couldn't really keep Heinicke clean long enough. But we saw some deep attempts, and we didn't see that with Cam Newton all season. We've seen some things that go 20 yards. We saw a few shot plays that were just horribly either overthrown or underthrown. So I'm waiting to see when Cam Newton comes back full force, because I feel like Norv has the ability to build a package that's going to make this team even more dynamic. You see what we did with just short yardage game? Think about when we can add that long pass back to it. I mean, just think about how nasty that defense is going to be. I mean,
if there's anything that saves Ron Rivera's job, it's North Turner. And that we saw enough a growth in the offense, enough growth in the offense to get things done, or to be optimistic. And like you said, where you're expecting those vertical threats and those things going down the field. All right, we're actually going to go. We're going to have to take a break and go to the cat calls. You want to hang out for those, Cody, or you got to run?
I'm fine with hanging out for a little bit.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll go to a couple cat calls, and then we got Josh from Mass who's going to jump in as well. But here we go with the cat calls. The number is 252-228-5098. You can be a part of the C3 Panthers podcast. What we want to do is make this the most interactive show that we're going to have to put our arms around each other. We're going to have to join the link arms and just get through this together. And you can do that. This is your time to vent. Let's jump into these calls and see what's happening.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty you shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like...
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use
one? Hey, I was just listening to the radio, and I live in Charlotte, and a Kemper Jeep Ram and Dodge commercial came up, and Thomas Davis was on it, and I don't know, I just thought it was really funny because the guy was talking about, like, Thomas, what do you credit for this amazing year's success? And he's like, I don't know, I just thought it was funny.
Hey guys, it's Ben from Harrisburg. Hey, I just wanted to call and give you guys my opinion, I guess, on the whole coaching thing. It's probably going to be more of an unpopular opinion, but I don't know, in my opinion, that Ron Rivera deserved to go down for this year. I just can't place really not any of the blame, but I can't place most of the blame on him. When I look at this team, I just see, poor personnel, just bad personnel all over the roster, specifically on the defensive line and offensive line. I mean, it just shows, like, we had a patchwork offensive line all season long, and they played pretty well for what they were, but down the stretch, I mean, it showed. We had a revolving door at left tackle. The left side of the offensive line was bad. I mean, it all kind of came crumbling down, and it's not Ron Rivera's fault that we had the offensive linemen that we did. And vice versa on the defensive line. I mean, think about it. 2015, we had, Coney Ely. 2016, Vernon Butler. 2017, Deshaun Hall. They're all off the team. All of those were Gettleman's picks, and they've come back to hurt us this year. I mean, we're playing statues on the defensive line, essentially, outside of K1 Short, and he's been so underwhelming this year. So and that affects everything on the defense. You saw against the Saints, Luke had his best game of the year in the one game of the entire season that the defensive line actually played well. So, I mean, it sucks this year went the way it did. But at this point, I'm looking draft. I'm not upset that Ron Rivera is going to be back next year. I don't know that he deserved to necessarily go down for what ultimately was just personnel reasons. And Cam Newton's shoulder. I mean, those two things, there's not many coaches, not named Bill Belichick, that are going to find a way to win games with that set of circumstances. Ron's game plan and game flow and just like how he manages the 2-minute warning is always frustrating. I think Ron is loyal to a fault, i.e. Eric Washington. But if we come into next season with Ron Rivera, Marty Herney, a new defensive coordinator, and some fresh young talent on both sides of the line of scrimmage, I think we'll be okay. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks.
It's the Save Ron Rivera Job Show. Who would have known that there would have been multiple people supporting Ron Rivera at this moment? I will open this discussion to you, Cody, in South Carolina first, and then we'll just turn it right over to Cody in VA. And that is, don't some of those personnel decisions, while the GM drafts the people, you think that you are working together in coordination, and at some point that there was a blessing by Ron on these guys to the effect of is that, and then we've mentioned it earlier, Cody, in the show, is that Ron loyal to a fault to players that stink at times, and he put certain guys in the doghouse. But do you think that any of those personnel deficiencies that are mentioned, that any of that accountability should fall on Ron Rivera as well?
Well, listen, I mean, I've made my position known very clear. I'm not a fan of Ron Rivera. I don't hate the man. I don't think he's a bad head coach, but I want a new head coach for the new season in 2019. With that said, yeah, it's not fair to put everything on him. I do feel that we have players on the team that did vastly underperform. Devin Funches, as we've already spoken about. It's never Ron Rivera's, his fault when Darrell Williams goes down at training camp. And then you have to remember Ross Cockrell went down. Denoris Cersei had to go on IR.
Oh, how can we forget Meanie Silatulu went down?
Yeah.
I don't know how we could recover.
The great Meanie Silatolu, Panther legend, will forever lives on in the Hall of Fame. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that the players have no culpability here. I just, when it comes to Ron Rivera, I just feel as though he's not getting the most out of these players, if that makes any sense. I mean, we have our incredible stalwart players, Luke and Cam, Thomas Davis, Greg Olsen, but, you have all these other players. C.J. Anderson as a great example. He leaves the team and puts up 167 yards. Trey Boston was a better safety in Arizona than he was, and with the Chargers, than he was here in Carolina. I have a lot of questions about Ron Rivera bringing out the best in these players when it appears as though he doesn't even see that potential himself. I mean, all I have to do is say Andrew Norwell. If it wasn't for Silatolu going down, then Andrew Norwell doesn't become the best left guard maybe in all the NFL, at least top 3 or 4. So, yeah, it's absolutely been a problem with Ron. I don't know what his relationship with Dave Gettleman was. I don't know what it is with Marty Herney at this point in time. So it's hard to put all the draft bust on him. But, yeah, if you're the head coach and you believe in a player, pound the table until it happens. And I don't know if Ron has done that. So that's kind of up to everyone's imagination at this point.
Go ahead, Cody.
I mean, obviously, it touched base on a lot of the things that I said when I first got on. I agree with Cody. I think it is time for a new coach, but the fact that it's not happening isn't upsetting to me. I've once again, we've seen what he can do with a successful team with a decent O-line. I'll be honest, I don't think Ron has much to do with the offense. I really don't. I think that's the reason Norv Turner's here, is Norv Turner is going to be basically the head coach of the offense. That's what his job is. But I think beyond the game management, his style of offense that he wants to run to, complement his defense, I don't think our offense can be blamed on him. Obviously the O-line is a problem. Bad luck. And we almost forgot one. We forgot the guy who didn't pass the physical. I forgot his name from the Redskins.
That was Breland.
Yeah, Bashard Breland. So, I mean, our off season for our secondary was absolutely horrible, along with our defensive line, or our offensive line, I mean. But ultimately, to say that everything would fall on Ron, it's with everything. I mean, you look at presidencies, everybody wants to blame not only our president now, but the previous presidents. Barack Obama probably got the worst of everybody's criticism when it comes to the economy until it started getting better. And then, then he wanted to be praised. And I think that to put that all on one person's head, is not fair to anybody. I mean, even the success of 2015, to say that's Ron Rivera is a fallacy. I mean, it's not true. It's the culmination of hard work between our, truthfully, our defensive coordinator and Cam Newton making Mike Shula look like a decent offensive coordinator who could be a head coach, but obviously,
amen.
So one of the things I did hear this today. I just read this, and we're going to go ahead and bring Josh from Massa, and I'm going to play the next call, and he can jump in right after that call as well. Just think on this for a second. I just saw a report. Panthers management has reached out to agent of safety Eric Reed about re-signing with the team in 2019. So the Panthers are looking to find some I guess answer to the secondary and the issues there. All right, I'm going to play the next call, and then we'll start off with Josh from Mass right after this call.
Hey guys, it's Ben from Harrisburg again. Hey, I just wanted to add another little nugget to what I bet is going to be a huge topic of conversation on the podcast, and that's just the whole head coaching search in general. I'm not convinced that you can just go out and find another head coach and it just, it automatically is going to fix anything. Like, I think you can look all over the NFL and you can see that the hit rate on head coaches is, it's about the same as it is on quarterbacks. You don't just find great coaches everywhere. You look at, who are some of the top guys the last few years, like Adam Gase with the Dolphins, Hugh Jackson when he went to the Browns, Kyle Shanahan with the Niners. I mean, I know he's had a lot of injuries, but still, you look at their record, and those guys are all three at one point in time the hottest coaching candidate in the NFL. And it's just like, at this point, we could take a risk, go with one of those guys. And, if he flops, then all of a sudden we've wasted the last 3 years of Cam Newton's prime. Or we can go with the known and Ron Rivera And, Ron Rivera is never going to give us a coaching advantage, but we could win a Super Bowl with Ron Rivera. We had the correct personnel, great personnel. Cam's healthy, playing at the highest level he can play at. We could win a Super Bowl with Ron, and I just don't know that it's worth the risk at this point in Cam's career, with him being 30 next year, still trying to rehab his shoulder. I just don't know if just completely transitioning to a new coaching staff at this point in his career is just really going to be, what we need. I almost think that just keeping the consistency, we know what we have with Ron. It's just bringing in a bunch of unknowns and variables from the outside with a new head young coaching candidate that's like the new young fad in the NFL. I don't know. It just makes me nervous. And I know that we can win with Ron. Ron does a lot of things that drives a lot of Panthers fans crazy, including me. But at the end of the day, he can get it done. And I know he can get it done if he had all the chips he needed. It's like Pete Carroll said once in the day, you got to be able to buy the groceries too, and Gettleman just did not set him up for long-term success.
All right.
What you guys think? Thanks.
Yeah. All right, Josh, is that this has turned into a round of Ron Rivera, play it safe. And I actually get a lot of that position, is that who is the next guy? How can you be confident? We need to know who those names really are and if there is somebody that is capable of it. But Ron Rivera getting a lot of people think now, or at least we've had a couple of voices. There's a couple of irons in the fire that sticking with that could get us in a better position than a wholesale change. Josh, how you feel about that?
Well, I feel really that I think keeping Ron, unless something incredible happens this season, a deep playoff run or a Super Bowl, what have you, I think this is it for Ron, really. I think it was something you had actually brought up on an earlier podcast, I believe like 2-3 weeks ago. You said that it makes sense to keep him around for a year because you don't want to throw – because all right, so if you're going to get a new head coach, you're probably getting a new GM at the same time. You want those guys to kind of work and function together. So you're not going to lop them off 4 months before the draft when there's all this scouting, there's all this information to gather, there's, and then you've got all the stuff leading up to the draft, pro days and bringing guys in and all that. So I think in a lot of ways it makes sense to keep Ron and Heinicke around probably for another year. I mean, Heinicke didn't do bad in the draft last year. I think if nothing else, that bodes well, I think, because I'm fairly confident in his ability to draft. And being stuck with Ron might not be the worst thing in the world. I mean, the reality is we're probably going to see wasted timeouts. Probably going to see some questionable stuff here and there. But you really at the end of the day, you see some questionable stuff from every coach. Except for like the elite of the elite, which there's only like one of those in the NFL right now. But again, none of us like it. Nobody wants to hear it because we all want change because the season's bad, right? We started 6-2. We're smelling like we're gonna go 6-10. So we're all like, fire everybody, burn the guy, burn it all to the ground, and let's just start over. And that's an easy reaction to have. Admittedly, Sunday leaving the game, that's where I was. I was like, man, I came all the way down here to watch this man miss opportunities, use timeouts wrong. Come on, So it's what we all want because it's knee jerk. But I think Ron being there for one more year, whether it's permanent or not, I think for a carryover year, just to keep things in place while the grand plan, I guess you could call it, falls into places. I think it's a better idea than just canning it all now because, like I said, we're 4 months and change, a little bit of change from the draft. We really want to just jump off that cliff? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that is, and especially in a time where there's looking like there's going to be 8 different head coaches hired here. You don't want to be in a case where you do what the Cardinals did and hire Steve Wilkes at this point, who really probably didn't have enough leadership only 1 year as a coordinator, maybe a little rush to judgment to hire that person, and you don't want to get stuck with one of those people, and you just hope that the plan is more of a plan instead of reactionary, like you come in like us reacting to this season. All right, we're going to go ahead with the next call. The number's 252-228-5098.
Hey guys, this is Waldo from Raleigh. Calling back in. It's been a while. I just wanted to ask you guys if you thought about like any coaching staff changes going forward next year. I know Ian Rappaport leaked the rumor that Ron Rivera was going to be safe as far as the head coach. Don't know if I buy that, but if that is the case, do we see any other changes going forward? I think it's kind of proven that we dug a little too deep in our own pot as far as what we had as defensive coaches. Eric Washington's just not ready to make that transition to being the defensive coordinator at this time. So I was just kind of curious, do you guys see us bringing in maybe like another defensive coordinator if we do keep Ron Rivera? Do we make any changes with the offensive coordinator? Or are you guys pretty happy with what Norv Turner's done this year and looking forward to what he can do next year? But that's what I got, guys. Look forward to hearing your responses on it, and keep pounding.
All right. Thanks, Waldo from Raleigh. I'll go ahead and start with this. It's something that I feel like we have been pretty consistent on saying, and that is that this all is determined by Ron Rivera and the safety of his job. I think Norv Turner has showed a lot of what he could do with an offense. We've been very happy with the offense that was on the field this year. They kept us. We put up a lot of more points than we're used to seeing out of a Panthers offense in many ways. But I think the question now, and I'll start with Cody from South Carolina, is I don't know if Ron Rivera, other than Norv Turner, is his only outside hire ever. So how do you go and get a defense? What do you do? It's clear it needs to be done. And also, I would think that his plan and the description of that plan to David Tepper probably is very important, and whether he's going to be a head coach or not even is how he's going to fix this part.
Yeah, and, apparently David Tepper and Marty Herney and Ron Rivera, they've been having frequent meetings as of late, which tells me that David Tepper is a very hands-on owner, which I do like that. The caller wanted to know if we have any names in mind. And there are a few of them that, I mean, really, it's so early in the process that it honestly is kind of hard to know what direction we would even move in. So I know our longtime listener, J-Dub, told us about Matt Campbell, the head coach at Iowa, who has done a rebuild of that program and turned them around and turned them into a competitor they've upset some good teams these past few seasons. I believe they beat Oklahoma. They've beaten some good teams, and Matt Campbell is a name on the rise. A name that Tony and I floated out earlier was John DeFilippo, who was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings, but they showed that man the door before the season even ended. So I don't know. There are a few names out there. It really is tough at this point to know what college coaches are interested in making the move to the NFL and what coaches out there, maybe that have had a job before, like the Mike McCarthy's, the Paganos, which God, I pray no, if they would even be interested in taking this job. Cody, do you have, maybe a name that you have in mind or a dream hire that if Ron Rivera did leave, which I do know you've been kind of pushing on, pump the brakes on firing Ron Rivera, but is there a name that you would like to see maybe affiliated with the organization in the future.
See, and that's probably why I'm not really a big fan of getting rid of him at this point, is because is there a better option than Ron Rivera at this point? And when you look out there, I guarantee you if Ron Rivera is on the market, he's the top person on the list of potential coaches. Guaranteed. So already in the list of people that are going to be like, so you know how NFL Network, Yahoo Sports, everybody's going to have that list of potential head coaches for these teams. And they're going to say who's the best. And I guarantee you that it's going to be between Ron Rivera and Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy might draw the short straw because Ron Rivera may draw the short straw just simply because not having the Super Bowl. But do we really want to let go of somebody who's going to be considered a top tier coach on the market? And unfortunately, I don't see a replacement right now on the horizon who's going to leave their team, who's going to lead us to the promised land, at least hypothetically. And I'll say something about Eric Washington too before I, turn the reins over. Eric Washington, I think we were all excited about him coming on board as the defensive coordinator because we were going to lose him had we not done the defensive coordinator. He was going to go to Arizona, with Wilkes to be his defensive coordinator had we not taken him. And so we would have lost him. And hindsight's always 20/20, certainly. But I was excited about what he was going to bring to the defensive coordinator slot. Unfortunately, I think Ron Rivera made the move to demote him back to, defensive line coach, not technically, but in position, just about, 6 weeks too late, unfortunately.
Josh, I'm going to ask you this since kind of shopping the head coaching carousel is a difficult question at this moment. One, that we're really just uncertain of what's going to happen is, though, if Ron Rivera does return, a defensive coordinator is going to be required. Is that you can't – I don't believe that Ron Rivera it would be best for him to be the defensive coordinator and the head coach at the same time. So I'll start with this. Would you be open to Wilkes returning?
Oh, yeah. Last year certainly wasn't the best defense we've ever fielded, not by any measure, but it was better than I saw this year, at least in my opinion. Saw more consistent pressure. I'm not sure what this year's total sack number is, but I'm pretty sure last year we have more. I'm fairly certain
we had to have, yeah.
Yeah, last year our only problem on defense was the secondary, and now I think we have a secondary that if the D-line produced like it did last year, this secondary would look amazing, and we'd all be having way different discussions than we're having today. Whereas that D-line just kind of – you ever see the movie The Blob? As ridiculous as that movie is. It's just this giant ball of crap that rolls around this town, and then rolls over people, and it's so slow and it's ridiculous. Like, that's how ridiculous our D line is this year. It looks like the Blob out there. Like, maybe it'll get lucky and catch somebody behind their car and just roll over them. It's like that's really what it's been, man. There's been we talk about no urgency on the play calling on offense. There's no urgency in the D-line either, man. There's no urgency. There's no youth. It smells bad. It smells worse than summer camp when you're a teenager, man. It's bad. So that's where that's part of why I think we need to keep Ron is because we need to fix some of the personnel issues before we bring a head coach in. Or another GM, really.
Yeah, and this is something that Brandon Herbert has been saying a lot in discussion with Twitter, particularly after our post-game show, is that, why we're in such desperate need of elite pass rusher. The problem is elite pass rushers don't grow on trees, and guys who look like they're going to be great and are difficult to find. And I guess that's why New Orleans went after that. I forget his name, and he's had a pretty good season so far. So Joey is joining the podcast with us. Joe, the question on the board is, would you be open to Wilkes coming back, or how do you think that Ron Rivera should handle the defensive coordinator position if he were to maintain his job? And how does he convince Tepper that he's got it under control?
I would be perfectly fine with Wilkes coming back and taking over as coordinator. I think when he was here, I think he was able to properly motivate the guys, and I think they played well for him, much better than Washington. Whatever the deficiency happened to be there with Washington, I didn't see it with Wilkes. I think he could come back and Ron could move back to being head coach, but I think still have a finger in on the defense.
Yeah, we saw, I think with Wilkes, the one thing is it wasn't a great defense overall, and I was disappointed in it. But it looked like it was, like Josh was saying, because of personnel deficiencies that were clear, is that he had to blitz so much to generate any pressure at all. And that was why we were able to, and that's what he did get a lot of sacks somehow out of Peppers and Addison together. And those guys just were better last year. And I just don't know. I don't know how it could have been, how Eric Washington was that bad, to be honest. Like he had a ring-in endorsement from Peppers, and he seemed to talk well. He seemed to have like a good mentality, but it just wasn't working correctly. I think Wilkes was able to do more with less, honestly. And is that you're also, I think this, and I truly believe this, is that Ron Rivera is going to be cautious about who he hires as a defensive coordinator. And he hopes that you don't want them to have too much head coaching history and success, because if he were to get fired late in the season next year, yeah, and the guy that comes to mind is if you hire, who was our defensive coordinator that went to be a head coach for the Jaguars and then later the Oakland Raiders?
Jack Del Rio.
Yeah, Jack Del Rio. You bring in Jack Del Rio, and then all of a sudden he's got enough cred where he could take over if that were the case. And Norv Turner probably wouldn't do that based on his relationship with Ron. So I do think that will be a factor that is going to be on Rivera's mind secretly going forward. All right, we're
another good reason to bring Wilkes in. Because he had experience, but he was not successful.
And listen, can I just jump in real quick here? It's a little bit off topic, but if they're talking about firing Steve Wilkes, like that's how you know you're a bad football organization. I mean, why are you firing Steve Wilkes after 1 year in the NFL? Was anyone honestly expecting Steve Wilkes to come into Arizona with a crap offensive line, with an aging set of receivers? I mean, a brand new quarterback, and what Steve was supposed to turn them into a starting caliber or into a playoff caliber team his first year there. I mean, listen, if they don't want him, I'll happily have him back. If anything, just to have Dante Jackson learn under a man like Steve Wilkes, come on, man, sign me up. But I honestly think that he will be a good head coach. And if the Cardinals fire him, they are the definition of incompetency, and they don't deserve him.
No. Yeah. That's a great point. And I think by saying that, I would have to agree with you. They need to give the man a chance.
Yeah.
He's only been there one season. Give him a shot. You're going to bring they will become the Cleveland Browns.
Absolutely. Let them have another.
I think there's an argument they fired Arians prematurely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think so too.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
With the Asian team.
They're in position to draft Joey Bosa. And Chandler Jones is still one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. Maybe they grab an offensive tackle. I mean, you have to build the football team to be a contender. And who would ever think that Josh Rosen in his first year would bring them into a playoff run? It wasn't feasible. Again, I know this isn't a Cardinals podcast, but with Steve Wilkes coming from us, I just thought that it was at least worth bringing up. So if they're incompetent, I would love to have him back here in Carolina.
Absolutely. And I want to mention one more thing about Ron Rivera. And going or cutting his coach. I'll be brief. Ron Rivera would come back. The team would not want to take the chance of having him go somewhere else, catch on somewhere, and become an overnight success. He would be one of the very tip-top coaches on the market if we were to let him go. So at the same time, I think as much as just keeping him because of what he's done with the team, they want to keep him so that there's not a chance of him of making the team look bad by him going somewhere and having success.
So it's been brought to my attention that Bruce Arians retired and wasn't fired. I got to believe, though, that was a retirement that was, we're going to give you an opportunity to retire before we fire you. It has to be, because now he's talking about coaching the dang Browns or all of that.
Well, and I think that's where you're right, Tony. The fact that he's wanting to come back and coach. I think you're right.
And to throw out some of the other names, I just saw that Jim Caldwell is going to be interviewing for the jobs, the Green Bay job. So is that with so many openings, a guy who has he's been coach of the year, right? And had success with the team, knows how to run from a big standpoint, practices, get guys, hire guys, move guys, those types of things. That's a sought after skill because, the John D. Filippo names, like Cody mentioned earlier, who are exciting to us when we see the Philadelphia offense go crazy. You put him into a larger role, and apparently it's too much to handle, or at least that's with Minnesota decided. The number's 252-228-5098.
This is Lee from Houston, Texas. Longtime listener. Love you guys. Happy that I got something to listen to out here. Want to tell y'all a quick story. Hopefully I can get it in within 3 minutes. So I do neuropsych testing for the NFL. I work with a lot of players. I'm working with a player last year who runs a training facility, who trains NFL players. And he says he's worked with a ton of players and ran off this list of high-caliber NFL players. And he says there's one player who he's so excited about because the kid's just got unbelievable measurables. Like, just would have been a top pick had he been invited to the draft. Measurables through the roof, but he wasn't very experienced. And who was that player? Albert Einstein. No, it was F.A. Obata. And he swore up and down that this was going to be a Pro Bowl player if given a shot, if he could learn a playbook and get in the NFL. Anyways, I'm just calling to tell you all that story. I hope this weekend F.A. Obata gets some playing time because I've been following him ever since then. So hopefully we'll get to see what he can do. But, Ron Rivera, it's going to be Horton and Addison and Peppers for the entire game. Anyways, y'all have a good day and keep pounding.
And Brian Cox Jr., interesting tidbit there. F.A. Obata, he does have limited football experience and crazy football body, though. He looks like a football defensive end. Ron Rivera cited him of having flashes of elite, and hopefully he will be one of those players that we get to evaluate. I think at this point there's no need to even put Addison out there. I don't even think, maybe if you want Peppers to have a snap in a final game to meet some contract thing or to make some whatever, but Peppers ain't going to get nothing out of playing in this New Orleans game. So I say put out Haynes on one side, act like he is your Addison, and put F.A. on the other side and see what these guys can do, because we've seen a ton of Horton. And by the way, Horton is not a bad player. Yeah, he's been okay, but we know that he also there's a ceiling there for him, and he is not going to be – he's a role player. What we need to be seeing is if F.A. Obata can be more than a good story that the Carolina Panthers can capitalize upon and make a movie about. And instead, if he can be a good football player and a contributor to the team. Josh, F.A. Obata, he has got the football size that who was it? Somebody mentioned in the chat room earlier that we had that went to Townsend that had 2 sacks. That God, what was his name? But we've had some guys that have been undersized in the past that we were hoping were going to be good. This guy, he's got the football body. Do you think that he can be a contributor for the Carolina Panthers?
I really think so. I mean, we all like a feel-good story, but let's be real. This is the NFL. But I mean, based on that one performance, I think he's just one of them guys who's that was kind of a flash of what he can be. Maybe not all the time, but at least a good chunk of the time. I think he's somebody that is worth having on the squad, having on the team to develop and see what more we can get out of him. See if we can get some consistency out of him. See if we can get some attitude out of him. Because it's not for a lack of trying on the D-line. It's a lack of ability and it's a lack of attitude. And I think, especially on, we've said it time and time again, Dontari Poe, man just looks like he's out there happy to be there because he's got a job, he's making money, whatever. And it's, you don't want players like that. You don't. And you think about it, F.A., he wants it, man. This guy's story is as unreal as it gets in the NFL right now, really.
Yeah, so incredible.
The guy's hungry. The man's got to be hungry. It's like the first Rocky movie and the second Rocky movie. He's a bum, he's a nobody, whatever. He's got some little freaking shriveled up guy coaching him up, chasing chickens in the back alley, and then lo and behold, he goes out and takes out the heavyweight champion of the world the second time around. And the first time, man, the fix was in. We all know the fix was in. We all know. Adrian knows. Although that's a bad reference. It's a bad reference because we got Philly this year. The hell with them, all right?
Yeah, we were the one running up the steps, pumping our fists this year, yeah. Yeah, listen, man, F.A. Obata is one of those guys, he's kind of an enigma, right? You don't really know how much of a contributor he'll be, and that's why, this Sunday in New Orleans, it's going to be an important game for him. I mean, to really go out there and granted, I don't know how many of the starters the Saints are going to try out on the field, especially before they try and make a strong playoff run.
Yeah, Sean Payton said they're going full force. So,
and you know what, Josh, I'm not necessarily mad at that decision. I mean, if you think about it, they're going to have a bye. You're looking at around 2 or 3 weeks in a row that your starters are going to be, not playing football. I mean, you don't want them coming into the playoff game cold against, either the Cowboys, who's already beaten them, or the Seattle Seahawks, who, I mean, they're trending upward right now. So, yeah, I mean, I want to see, Obata go one-on-one against Ryan Ramczyk. That was the guy they drafted last year, I believe it was. And he's been a great run.
We want to see him go one-on-one with Drew Brees. Let's be real. We want to see them just go do some damage, man. I don't care if this is their best week, because this week would just be icing on the cake, man. Everybody's like, "Oh, that's dirty, that's greasy." I'm like, you know what? After this season, after some of the calls that went against us, and after some of the missed opportunities, I'll say it. Trade me to Buffalo if you got to. I just want to see somebody go out there and grease Breeze, man. Just get him. Just get him, man. Make him smell the deep socks, take his damn lunch money, and make him eat your belly button lint, all right? That's all we want. That's all we want. Playoffs are boom, gone. They're up there in the closet over there somewhere next to my wedding apparel when my friends have weddings. I break it out once a year. Leave it there. All right. We want to see some grease. I want some grease.
I do think it's a kind of a weird thing though, as we're talking about evaluating players. We don't have a lot or anyone we can truly evaluate at defensive tackle. Kyle Love, God bless him, has been great, but he's old and he's not going to be a piece going forward, I would think. Vernon Butler, right now, I mean, you better learn a lot about him in a hurry, but it doesn't seem like he's taken positive steps forward enough. And then Don Terry Poe, veteran at this point, KK hurt. So we better see some people on those edges that give us some flash, or else there's going to be a full overhaul that needs to be done. So here we go. We got Carl D on the line right now.
Hi, what's up, Cat? What's up, C3? This is Carl D. Calling. What's up, Tony, Cody, and Joey? How was y'all guys' Christmas? Mine was it was okay. You know, pretty good, not bad. No complaints here.
Same.
But anyway, guys, and especially you, Cody, tonight I want to do a little profile. Have some offensive linemen. Next week, I'm going to call in with a few my defensive ends that I got. But offensive linemen, this is especially for you, Cody, since you looking for us to get offensive linemen. Number one on my list, I'm going to go with some tackles that I have. A Dalton Resner from 6'5", 308 pounds.
Yep.
He played majority of tackle, but this year he played center and still was good. He's an outstanding pass blocker, which you said we need a good pass blocker. He's very versatile.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's very versatile too. He would be a good pick.
K-State.
And then, of course, one of my favorites, my top center in the draft, since Khalil's going to be gone, is Tyler Biden is one of the Wisconsin guys. And you know Wisconsin is good for offensive line youth. Tyler, of course, was their anchor the past 2 seasons at Wisconsin. 6'3", 320 pounds. He's probably the most famous of the Wisconsin on the line. Yeah, the guy is legit. I would love for us to get him. I have some sleeper picks too we can get. If we don't go offensive line, we can get a second round. My first one is the start of Tyler's his line mate, David Edwards.
I know about David.
The offensive tackle who's always the teammate of Tyler. This guy he's just as good as Tyler. He just don't get as much credit as Tyler. 6'7", 315 pounds, and yeah, he's a big mauler too.
6'7".
So he's one of my sleeper picks. My other sleeper pick is the tackle from Oklahoma, Bobby Evans, 6'5", 300 pounds. Yo, he played mostly right.
All right, so he got caught up. He's got another call going forward. Cody, since you're the draft guy, what your response? Those are some. You were talking about plus size people earlier. Those are some sexy plus size people.
Yeah, them big boys. Yeah, we like them thick here in Carolina. As David Gettleman referred to. Hey, he called them hog mollies, baby. We need some more hog mollies on the team. But no, listen, man, I love the draft. I love that Carl is interested in it too. And listen, Carl, man, if you turn me on to a player, hey, you might see him pop up on Draft Tech. I want to remind everyone tomorrow there will be a new draft on drafttech.com. Be on the lookout for the Panther players selected I had my hand really deep into this one. But to some of the players that he's mentioning, Dalton Reisner from Kansas State, 6'5", 300 pounds. Carlton actually hit the nail on the head. He is a versatile player. He's either going to play center or he's going to move over to the left guard position, which I don't mind that at all. We don't know that Tyler Larson is the answer at center, and we don't know that Van Roten is the answer at left guard. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he is not, in spite of his performances earlier this year, which did show a lot of promise. I do like Dalton. The belle of the ball, in my opinion, right now at center is another guy that Carlton mentioned, Tyler. I'm gonna butcher this last name, dude. Biads. It's a weird last name, but yeah, he's a road grader, man. He's tough. He's hard to push off the line of scrimmage, and I think these are probably some later round picks. Another name for Carlton that I want you to read up about him a little more is a dude named Eggleton Jenkins. He's the center out of Mississippi State, and I'm telling you, man, that dude is a beast, an absolute beast. I think once the combine comes around, he's gonna fly up the draft boards. And if we need some offensive linemen, this is an underrated draft class for us to be able to do it. So I'm excited about it.
Cody.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, where will we be picking?
So right now the Panthers are in the position to draft anywhere between the 7th pick and the 15th pick.
God.
So it ranges from there because there's a bunch of different scenarios. Tampa Bay is in front of us right now. I said this to Tony earlier. Even though Atlanta swept us, they still have a strength of schedule advantage on us right now. So they have the 10th pick right now. We have the 11th pick. So there's that. But as of right now, if a few things went our way, we could end up with the 7th pick in the draft.
And at number 7, where would you see them going? I mean, if you could pick anything you wanted in your top 10 at 7, who would you get?
I mean, Brother Herbert, him and I go back and forth on this. Is it offensive line or is it pass rusher? I'm of the mindset that you bolster the offensive line. The only pass rusher that I'm absolutely in love with and who I would love above all else is Nick Bosa out of Ohio State. But that guy is never going to fall past the 3rd pick in the draft. And even that might not happen. So I want to bolster the offensive line. There are a bunch of good defensive players. But if Jonah Williams, the left tackle from Alabama, is sitting there just ready to be pulled in, I'm tired of talking about Matt Khalil. I'm tired of talking about Clark having a revolving door on Cam Newton's blind side. I'm done with it, man. I want to invest in the offensive line and protect Cam Newton for the rest of the time that he's a Carolina Panther.
Yeah.
Is there my question about scouting these offensive linemen is that you hear a guy that says 6'7", and I'm starting to go, this is that can you be too tall for the offensive line? Because I feel like once you're getting to that 6'7" range, over 6'6" is like you have to be a tackle. Like it seems like it's a disadvantage to be that tall and play guard. So do you think that those are considerations when you look at those guys?
Yeah, absolutely. But with the guard and the center, they're the less physically gifted of the offensive linemen. They want to be able to punch instantly. Whereas a tackle, they have the kickback. They're trying to, scoot outward and be able to round the defensive end away from the quarterback. So, yeah, the taller they are, normally they're at the tackle position. And, that's why centers, I believe Ryan Khalil might be 6'2", maybe. Yeah, the smaller of the guys there on the interior. But one of the better left tackles in the NFL is David Bakhtiari up in Green Bay. And he's 6'9", I believe. I mean, homeboy's he's a big boy. So, yeah, you do have
that wingspan is more beneficial on the edges.
Yeah,
really
pad level. All right, Carl D's coming back for round 2.
Okay, this Carl D back. Sorry, I got cut off. I'm going to try to rush through this so I don't get cut off again. I was talking about my other sleeper pick, Bobby Evans. He may have played most of the right tackle, but I'm telling you, this guy, he's a junior. He's 6'5", 300 pound plus. And Cody, this guy will fit good in our system. He's also an outstanding pass protector. And from what I've seen on film too, with this guy, and we also have to remember this guy was in the Lincoln Riley system at Oklahoma. So in that system, passing the ball, this guy, he's smart and he's athletic and he has enough strength to be a decent as a offensive tackle in this game. Hey, this could be our future left tackles. Hey, we get Reisner, who's experienced at center, or Valdez, and put Bobby Evans in there. Man. Or vice versa, put Edwards as a offensive lineman would want to compare to one of them centers. Cody, that would be your offensive dream line right there, teaming up with Moulton. But that's all I got for this week, guys. Next week I'm going to call and give you some names of defensive linemen that I've seen that I think might be a good fit for us. And y'all give me y'all thoughts about these guys. And once again, I gotta say, fire Rivera. I'm still on the Ron Rivera train until further notice. But anyway, guys, I'm going back in the chat room. I will be here. I will be texting with y'all. So y'all let me know what y'all comments and stuff. Cody, you let me know what you think about my draft board of these offensive linemen. If you know them, if you have any questions about them, feel free to ask. I will be more than happy.
All right, thanks, Carl D. Cody, I'll let you get one quick response, then we're going to the next call.
Yeah, so he mentioned Bobby Evans. He's someone that I haven't looked at a lot of tape on yet. But I tell you what, Oklahoma, they're getting ready to play Alabama, and they're known for their defensive linemen. So Bobby Evans will be on display coming up here soon, within the next 7 days. So he has an opportunity to bump up his draft stock tremendously. Yeah, man, let's see what he's about. I'm excited to see it. Yeah, I love it, Carl. Call in, do this some more, man. We'll talk about any player you want to, man.
All right. The number's 252-228-5098.
Hey, guys. I like the show. You guys are doing a great job. So keep up the good work. I want to get your slant on something, too. Should Ron Rivera stay or go? Should Marty Herney stay or go? Do you think Marty Herney is capable of turning second, third, and fourth round draft choices into starters? And what do you think about keeping Ron and keeping like Norv Turner and Scott Turner as a QB coach? Just keep those, get a new defensive coordinator, and then get a new GM who's good at drafting. So thank you guys and keep up the good work. Bye-bye.
All right, I'm going to start with this as I think that we kind of have debate. We've addressed some of these tenets a little bit earlier in the show. The ideal thing is that, look, Marty Herney has not been a bad GM at any of his tenure when it comes to the draft. That has never been Marty Herney's weakness. Now, I know that people are going to point to that time that he traded away a first-round pick to get Jeff Ota, who was a good football player, by the way, a big man with a big foot injury, and that was the problem there. And then he got the guy, what is his name, that and he's actually come on the radio in Charlotte a couple of times this past year. We drafted him, Everett Brown. Everett Brown was the bust that Marty Herney couldn't ever get. That was the legacy of a bad draft. Him, and then there was the starting quarterback from Appalachian State that he drafted to play wide receiver, Armani Edwards. That one didn't work out. But he really has had some just complete gems. Now, the question, though, is in the mid or late rounds, is he good enough there? And I think he is good enough. The question is he good enough? We've seen this is the second decade of the Marty Herney era, if you think about it. He did 10 years earlier. Now it's 20 years later from he started almost. And, you just got to wonder, is there do we need a new vision, a fresh vision to go ahead? And I think this is that if Marty Herney goes, then we know right away that Ron Rivera's tenure is going to be pretty short. And I'll turn it over to Josh. Josh, when we had Brett, it wasn't Brett Coleman who we had on the show. We had Dan Hatman. Dan Hatman. It was talk about this. Yep. He said that a head coach has never lasted, other than Ron Rivera, with a new GM more than a calendar year. So if we are to replace Marty Herney, don't you think that trickles down?
I think so. I think really keeping them together for this year would be a good idea. Just right. Because they're in tune with what's going on. They're the best set of hands, whether we like what the product they put out this year or not. They're going to be the pair that is going to lead the charge the best when it comes to the draft this year. Again, a lot of us aren't going to necessarily want to hear that, but it's the fact of the matter. They have the most time on and off the field with this team. They're the guys who Ron obviously is head coach. He tries to get a handle on what the scheme is going to be on both sides of the ball. So, again, these are the two guys you really want doing it. The two guys who ran the show for this year. I can't see them getting split up like a mid-season or in between two seasons type thing. I really think when one goes, they're both going to go. And I don't think it's this year. And honestly, if Ron produces a really good season next year, call me crazy, but as we all said earlier, as you said earlier, Tepper is kind of the wild card here. We don't know what he's going to do, and I think maybe call it crazy, but even if it's a good season next year, I think maybe Tepper just still continues the plan. I think Tepper has got a plan in his head already. He already knows what he wants to do, and I think he knows full well that getting rid of Ron now it's not the right time. You get your people in place, and depending on I'm not sure on what the legalities of it all, but you could probably even have somebody waiting in the wings who's already done their homework. Maybe we're all wrong about this, or maybe that's the case for next year, is he's got some people in wait. Although then again, with as competitive as the NFL is, I question whether that's possible, but this man's a billionaire. And he seems serious about winning. He seems serious about the same things that the Roaring Riot's serious about this year's, changing the culture. So, he's really the wild card here. We have no idea what this man's going to do, because he comes from a team that just wins. They're a perennial playoff team. Granted, they get the crap kicked out of them by New England usually once a year. That didn't happen this year.
Yeah.
but still, they're a team that's in the playoffs almost every year, if not every year. So he's going to want to change his team into a team that, okay, so maybe we don't go to the Super Bowl every year. Maybe we don't even make the NFC championships. But you're damn right, the Panthers are going to make the playoffs every year. I think that's the idea. That's the mentality. That's what he wants at the minimum. He wants this to be no more excuse. Well, it's a small market team, and it's this, and it's that, and it's a – okay, look. The stadium doesn't sit any less people than Gillette Stadium where the Patriots play. It's a team that is currently considered by many to be the top of the NFL, right? I've been in both stadiums. I haven't been to a Patriots game. I saw Metallica there. I didn't go to no Patriots game. No. But they seat about the same amount of people as our stadium. And really, honestly, every week, you'd think that this was a losing franchise out here. Because this last week, I was in Charlotte for the game, and my father and my brother were in Gillette Stadium out in Foxborough, and their stadium was just as damn empty. This is a team with 5 rings in the last how many years? So it's all a big mess, really, is what it is. And like I said, I don't think we even have a clue what Tepper's got going on in his head. We haven't a clue. We think we have an idea, and we have the list of things that kind of make sense. But really, I see him willing to do, like, move heaven and earth to make this a winning team. And I don't see a limit in place. Really, I think we're seeing a little bit of ease right now because we're not. You got to remember, we're not even a calendar year. Legally, he didn't own the team till July. So I think we're in for a hell of a ride in the next 2 years, and then I think that's really what's going to be the future of this team and this franchise is what happens in the next 2 years. Because I don't think Ron's here for the long haul. I think somebody with a more aggressive offensive mind and a really good, maybe even a classic type-minded DC comes in. There's obviously some big names in the league as far as that, but they've got homes right now. So like I said, I think in the next 2-3 years, I think things are really going to get interesting for this team.
All right, we're going to close the show out before we do our ice up picks with something kind of a funny note. And I found this on Panthers Reddit. Cam Newton's girlfriend posts about the word affirm. And it's like one of those those motivational kind of cards, and it's like a poem. And so it starts off with the word affirm, and with colon it says, I am attracting better because I have discovered that it all starts with me. I'm going to change myself first so that everything can align for me. I'm not going to blame anyone. I'm going to take responsibility for my life. The better I become, the better I attract. And the word affirm is the focal point. It is like the motivational speech. Well, Cam Newton slides into the comments section and he writes in Cam Newton language, that funny keyboard talk that he had made for him. Just make sure that ass firm.
Oh, damn.
That's what Cam Newton is. And by the way, he thinks it is because, Cody, didn't you say you think that they could be expecting another kid?
Yeah, they're having another child. Yeah, man. Look,
really?
He must have a legal agreement installed.
His shoulder busted, but nothing else is, yo.
Yeah, man.
Still working.
We know what Cam Newton's doing in the off season. All right, he's living his best life.
Off season sounds like he's faking hurt so he can go home and be with his old lady, man. Yeah, he's putting them out there.
All right. So you're listening to the C3 Panthers podcast. We're live on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. We got one more post-game show to knock out ahead of time. If you're listening, go ahead and smash the thumbs up button. Share on any social media platform you got. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all of that. Now, if you're also listening to the audio podcast, we have moved and transitioned our feeds to a megaphone feed. So the RSS feed has changed. It is in the show notes. I'm going to keep simultaneously loading it to the old feed to make sure that we don't lose any of those people. But at some point, I'm going to put an end to that. So make sure you update your RSS feed if you're listening through a third-party app like I do, Podcast Addict. These changes should be automatic in Google, iTunes, and Stitcher, so everything should be good there. Now let's go ahead and let's ice some people up. And Cody, I'm gonna start first. Is that my ice up pick goes to Kevin Spacey? You pointed me to a video where Kevin Spacey has done where he acts like Frank. What was his name? Frank what from House
Frank
of Cards?
Underwood from House of Cards.
Frank Underwood. Yeah. So he's channeling his character, Frank Underwood, and he puts out this odd video, creepy, if I might even say, video where he is talking about basically like a Stern talking to from House of Cards, where nobody knows the truth and he's not going to fold. And that you've missed him, and that the people that were going to stick with him are going to stick with him. So the video is weird. Go watch it. I don't know if watching somebody's video, if that's supporting them. I do think you might get a beat on what's going on with Kevin Spacey at this moment. But the video was enough to ice up. But then today I saw that a Snapchat video has surfaced where he was groping a 16-year-old boy in 2016, or some underage kid or young kid. And in the wake of that video, this is just a bad look. Not a bad look. This is just turns out that Kevin Spacey is in outer space, and he doesn't know. Yeah, and that's sad because I thought that he was such a good actor. And again, what we do is remember all of that's a facade, people. You don't know people. You know the people that they want you to think they are. And Kevin Spacey, we're finding out that you are, like Josh said, a creep. So to you, I say ice up. All right, go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, man. So, whenever I do my ice up picks, I try and aim for a comedic slant, get everybody laughing at the end of the show, lighten up the mood on what is sometimes some heavy topics around Panther Nation. And dare I say, this might be the funniest, most comedic ice up that I've done since I've come on my beloved C3 Carolina Panthers podcast show with Tony Dunn and Joe Riolano. I'm icing up the 2018 Carolina Panthers. It's low-hanging fruit. It's low-hanging fruit. But, man, we've been on this ride where we thought we had one of the most dominant teams in football. And then for the rails to just come off, man, and just blow up in our faces like that. Tony and I talked about at the start of the show, this might be the most, one of the most disappointing seasons that we've had being Panther fans, being duped into believing that we're this badass dominant football team, only to see that we're not even close to that. So I'm icing up everyone affiliated with this bullshit season of Panthers football, to Ron Rivera, to Heinicke, to Turner, and even to the players, man, to Devin Funchess, to K1 Short,
Captain Munnerlyn,
and I still love K1, by the way. I still think he's one of the better defensive tackles in football. but just a bad year. Yeah, everyone just playing below their standard, except for a few, Panther all-timers that I don't even need to name. You know them. And yeah, man, this is just a bad season. So to everyone involved, to everyone who duped us into believing that we were something that we were not, ice up, son.
Josh, you got an ice up pick for us tonight?
Oh yeah, I got one. All right, this is kind of coming out of left field, but we're Panthers fans, but we're all football fans. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My ice up goes to the Dallas Cowboys fans of the world, because y'all still ain't shit. We got you week one. We got you week one. All right. That's all I got. There's no more
They're
hair.
going to the playoffs. They're going to the playoffs.
All you need.
Hey,
that's all you need.
What are they gonna do there? They're gonna go get dry humped by like some poodle of a team, and then they're gonna lose, and then the Saints will play that team and probably crap on them, and we're all gonna be sitting there going, well, you know what? As long as Drew Brees don't win a goddamn Super Bowl, I'm fine with all of it, man. I'm fine with all of it. You know how fine with it I am? I ain't supposed to be smoking in the damn house. Here we go. I'm smoking in the damn house. That's how fine with it I am. As long as goddamn Drew Brees don't win no goddamn Super Bowl this year. I can't take that. I can't take that, man. I can't take that. Two Drew Brees Super Bowl wins between our, in a time where we had two goddamn losses. Skip, I can't deal with it. Can't deal with it.
Joe Riolano, do you have an ice up pick for us?
I do, but Cody, I want to touch on something with you real quick. It's off topic. You mentioned, you mentioned TK Short. How would you feel about him being teamed up with Christian Wilkins?
Oh, I mean, well, they both play the same position. So one of them would have to move over and fill that Dontari Poe Star Lotulelei type role. But I know where you're going, because you and I are both we're the Clemson fans on the show. The name I would love to see next to Kawan Short is Dexter Lawrence. I think if Dexter were to declare
is he a tackle too?
Yeah, he's a tackle. He's a one technique defensive tackle, and him next to K1, yeah, that would be kind of beautiful for a number of different reasons. But I try not to let my Clemson bias bleed into my drafting. Yeah, but if it happens, man, let me tell you what, I'm not mad, and none of y'all should be either.
My ice up pick this week. We are all NFL fans, and I witnessed an atrocity that took place in an NFL game last Sunday. And that Steelers-Saints game, the referees were so bad. They were making so many home cooking calls for the Saints. And the Steelers were marching, in major ways impacted the game. I think had the referees been more unbiased, that the Steelers would have ended up winning that. But anyway, they were so bad. And it wasn't just one. It was like the entire unit. The entire core of referees there was just awful. And the NFL really, I don't think those guys are going to grade out well for that game. So I am going to 100% ice up those referees and any referees that call games like that. Definitely need to ice up some.
I think there's some that game shows, and I heard Bucky Brooks talking about this on Move Sticks podcast, and that is, at some point, where the pass interference call is too much, So if you could get a spot foul or whatever they call it, where it's like a 10, kind of like a holding call, like there needs to be levels almost of pass interference so that all of a sudden you're just not chucking it up on third down, hoping you get it and you do, a little contact and all of a sudden it's a 40-yard gain. The other thing is, did you guys see my boy, Dwayne Harris, one of the greatest players out of East Carolina University, pick the ball up on the 1-inch mark and run it to the house against the he's on the Oakland Raiders. It's a great play. And all I tweeted about is look at how smart people from ECU are. That's what it is that we are known for being a heady college. That's what it is. And the last point to Cody, where someone said, now you got to ice up yourself, Cody, because you're associated with the team. We're off affiliation. We claim them. They don't claim us. So we're going to ice that up. And then the other thing is I did see that John Gruden fired his strength and conditioning coach. So he's like channeling that. He's icing it up everybody other than like that team. All right. We got to get out of here. My wife is probably so pissed that I told her this was going to be a short show and it's 2 hours. My name is Tony Dunn. This is the C3 Panthers podcast. You can reach the podcast using the cat calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. Cody Lashney, I know that you got a draft on Draft Tech coming up. How can they follow you on Twitter?
At CODYLAC, Cody Lack on Twitter. Tomorrow, there will be a brand new draft on drafttech.com. There will be up to 5 players picked, 5 different rounds on drafttech.com. Go and check it out. The first round, I have a little bit written up for the first pick. And then once January rolls around, there's going to be a brand new mock draft every Tuesday. And eventually it'll be all 7 rounds and a comment for the first and second round pick. Hit me up on Twitter. Check out Draft Tech. As always, much love.
Joe Riolano, Carl D said, Tony, your college is known as the party university. That is true. We're known for binge drinking and hot girls. So that's the ECU mantra right there. 4-1 at the best time in our heyday, we were top 5 school, party school. Also, there was a 6-to-1 ratio of girls to guys. I think it slimmed down to 4-to-1 or 3-to-1. Still good numbers. If you ain't got no game, come to ECU because the odds are in your favor. Joe Riolano, how can they follow you on Twitter?
Guys, if you want to talk football, in particular Saturday, any Notre Dame fans want to talk smack about the game that's going on this Saturday, I will be highly entertained and willing to do so with you. I am the freaking Puerto Rican. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Riolano.
Football Jesus won't save him, will they, Joey?
That's right.
Football Jesus won't save him. Them Tigers are coming, baby.
All right, and Josh, have you gotten on Twitter yet?
I am on Twitter. I forgot I had an old account. I haven't really started using it much on my phone, but you can get at me at LSC50. That's LSC, the number 5, OHH. So feel free to bug at me.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys.
Well, because I drive a car with an old Ford 5.0 in it, so.
Nice. All right. Well, all right, guys. This is C3 Panthers podcast. Let's get the heck out of here. We'll see you next week. We're going to see you after the post game. We're going to do our last post game, crawl the finish line, and then hit you guys back on Tuesday. I know. It's going to be awful. Maybe it'll be great, like you said. Get to Drew Brees. Get to Drew Brees, F.A. Obata.
Get him like the
Finish
Blob.
your story. Finish your story. All right, guys. You guys have a fantastic
Rip his head
night.
off.
Good night.